Namaskaram everyone. In our last audio narration, we saw how Suta Maharishi, also known as Ugrashrava, the son of Romaharshana, was met by the rishis at Naimisharanya, led by Rishi Shaunaka, and as the most right student would ask the teacher, Shaunaka puts forth his dilemma of the time of Kali Yuga and what can be done to help oneself in these difficult times. Suta Maharishi was very pleased with the question of Rishi Shaunaka and tells how contemplating of the absolute will not be possible since man's mind will be running helter-skelter, caught between different thoughts, ridden by the karma and the malam of his actions, and that the only way, or rather one of the most potent ways to sanctify, to clear oneself of this malam so that one can get the vision of the Lord, is to listen to the Bhagavata Purana. Just like a japamala, let the divine words of the Lord ring in your ear, heart. Let every cell be utfulit, utprerit, otprot with bhakti of the Lord, which will help us to burn the knots or the malam or the obstacles that do not allow us to see the divinity in our heart. Continuing from there, we move on to the second chapter. The river Saraswati was flowing placidly. On the banks of the river was the ashrama of Vyasa. This narration is being told to Rishi Shaunaka and the other rishis at Naimisharanya by Suta Maharshi. It was evening time and Vedavyasa was sitting on the sands gazing at the ripples in the river with unseeing eyes. His eyes were sad and his face troubled. There was some deep pain mirrored in his thoughtful eyes, and so he sat for a long time. Silence around him was broken by the twanging of the strings of the veena. Narayana, Narayana. The sweet notes fell on his ears. With the music of the veena was heard a voice singing the praise of Narayana. Vyasa looked up with an eager face and found the young sage Narada coming towards him. Vyasa got up in a flurry, welcomed the divine rishi and made him take a seat of honor. He then sat at the feet of the young rishi who was the son of Brahma. We all must be knowing that Narada was the son of Brahma himself. Narayana, Narayana. Narada smiled at Vyasa and said, I hope all is well with you. I hope that sickness and disease do not bother you. I am confident that your mind, clear like a pond, is without agitations. O great Vyasa, you ought to be happy, since you have composed the great poem, the Mahabharata, which is the storehouse of knowledge of all the rules of conduct. It is indeed a great achievement, and the world of men will benefit by your work. As for you, learned as you are in the Brahma Vidya, you must be without any sorrow. Now we all know how Narada always approaches the pain area of a person in a very, very humorous and soft, gentle way, saying that he kindled the pain in Vyasa. Narada paused for a while, and Vyasa sat silent without uttering a word. Narada spoke again. He said, It seems to me as though you are not looking very happy. You seem to me like one who has not achieved what he has wanted to. O Vyasa, you have done so much, and yet to you, I think it seems to be inadequate. What is worrying you? What makes you unhappy? What you say is perfectly true, said Vyasa, and you are the only person who can clear my doubts. O Narada, you are wise. You are the son of Brahma. You are ever lost in praising the glories of the Lord Narayana. And it seems to me there is nothing which is beyond your intellect. You are like the sun, the Surya, which sees all the three worlds. With the power of your yoga, you can, like the air, enter into human beings and know what is hidden in their minds. You must be knowing the reason why I am despondent. Long ago, I was once absorbed in meditation. In my mind's eye, I saw the future of the world. I saw the deterioration of dharma. I saw the nature of man undergoing a change for the worse. I saw that advent of Kali, of the sinfulness pervading the earth. I saw the gradual withdrawal of the glory that had been her heritage all these years. And I was filled with infinite pity for the generations of men that are to be born in this Kali Yuga. I therefore resolved to help them in their distress. I edited the Vedas. I divided it into 4 parts, and these 4 were taught to my disciples. Paila learnt the Rigs, Jaimini the Sama. Vaishampayana was the only one who could master the Yajurveda. Sumantu became proficient in Atharva Veda. To Romaharshana, I taught the 17 Puranas and the Itihasas. These disciples of mine have divided the Vedas further, and they have taught them to their disciples, and they in turn to theirs. I found that I had not done enough. I realized that those who cannot study the Vedas, those who are not allowed to do so, should also be saved. And so I composed the poem by name Mahabharata, wherein all the lessons of the Vedas are taught in the course of the narration of the story. And I hoped that humanity will benefit by all this. And yet, my friend, I feel that my work does not grant me satisfaction. Or rather, I have not the peace, the tranquility state that should be mine by right if I have done the right thing. Tell me what I have left undone. What is it that will grant me peace? Please tell me. I am sorely distressed by this unrest inside me. With a smile lighting up his young face, Narada said, I know the reason. You have not done enough. Not done enough? Echoed Vyasa with dismay. I have tried to do all that I possibly could. I have set down all that I thought was essential for the well-being of man and for his walking in the path of dharma. What else is left? Tell me. I still maintain that you have not done enough, continued Narada. There is still something you have to achieve before you attain peace. You have done a great service to humanity by composing the Mahabharata. There is no doubt about it. But there is one drawback in that great work. Vyasa was listening to him as a student would to the words of his guru. A drawback in the Mahabharata? He was eager to know what it was. He did not speak a word, but his eyes were questioning, as if to say, please tell me. Go on and tell me what is the drawback and how can I rectify it. I am eager and impatient to know. Narada said, You were interested in the welfare of the world, and by relating the story of the Pandavas, you have taught the lesson that righteousness, dharma, will conquer in the end. And where Krishna is, there is dharma. This is the lesson, and there is no doubt that people will learn it. But you have, throughout the epic, laid stress on the duties of man, on his dharma, on his performing them selflessly. The Bhagavad Gita and all other discourses on dharma lay stress on Karma Yoga, as you call it. My friend, you have not sung the praises of the Lord as much as you ought to have. Know you not that the easiest path to the Lord is the path of bhakti? All other yogas are harder paths which lead to the feet of the Lord. The praises of Narayana, even if they were couched in wrong words, even if they are sung all out of tune, will assure man of the grace of the Lord. Like a piece of arani, which when churned will give forth smoke first and later fire, which will consume the wood itself, even so the mind of man, when churned by constant devotion to the Lord, will make all the evil in him come out to the surface, the manthan with devotion. The true sattvic nature of man will then blaze forth, and like fire will consume the bondage of karma and grant him salvation forever and ever. The Mahabharata was to you a play. Your attitude was merely objective. You entered into every one of the characters. You were therefore thinking good thoughts as well as evil ones while in the process of portraying them. Incidentally, the Lord was praised. There was no single-mindedness about your devotion to Him. You must try to make up for this omission. Sing the praises of Narayana. Relate to the world His Vishwarupa, His Virata Rupa, His Vibhutis, His avatars, and this, I assure you, will grant you the peace you are seeking. Unveil to the world the secret behind the avatars. Narada continues to tell sage Vyasa that tell people why the Lord is beyond the opposites. Dvait se pare hai. The one who has his abode in Ananta, endless, who is the Purusha, the life giver to this entire universe. Why should he take a form and a name and a birth and become like one of us? Why he should appear to be infused with one or the other of the three gunas and act as if he were a human being with human emotions? Praise every avatara of the Lord. Let nothing come from your lips except words of praise describing the glory of Narayana, and you will find peace. Drive home to the world of men this lesson. Even if a man fails in his duties which are ascribed to him by the Vedas and by the elders, even if he is a sinner who has transgressed all rules of conduct, still, if in his heart there is a spring of love, of devotion to the Lord, that will wash his sins and he will become dear to him. Remember, my friend, that you are yourself an avatara of Narayana. You have been born in this world for the benefit of mankind, and yet you allow emotions to delude you. Remember who you are. Uttishta, Jagrata. Wake up from the sleep which makes you forget your true nature. Relate to everyone the many avatars of Narayana and the purpose behind each of them. Sing the praises of Narayana again and again and again, and you will then have reached the goal for which you have been striving. Peace. Saying this, Narada conveyed the importance of singing the glories of the Lord so that the sage Vyasa, who himself was an avatara of Narayana, attains peace in his heart. Oh.